Do you ever think that you might be focusing on the things that don't really matter? Well, then this show's for you. Why do you coach? Welcome to the Nick Anthony Show. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nick.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, but I'm looking forward to today.
I know. It really, it's been a long summer of hiatus a little bit. So we're hopefully not going to be as rusty as I feel right now.
You're going to be great. I'll be okay. But.
Yeah, no, but no, it's good. I think the last time, honestly, we weren't even in the studio. So.
That's true. We did the shows in Dick's.
Yeah. So, which was really cool, but now we're here.
We are here.
We are. So you and I have been talking about, or maybe I've been talking at you off camera about this topic
that never happens.
Get out of your own way is the title of our show today. And this one is interesting to me because it's so prevalent, is that the right word, in my daily job and what I see. And
great.
And so what I mean, I think by that is coaches worrying about things that in the end don't really matter. And I think experience or wisdom, and I don't think you can speed up wisdom. I think teaches all of us in different things about what's important and what's not, right? And so honing in and deciding and figuring out what are important things is one aspect, I would say. The other is, and I think we'll go into a couple, I think it's easier when I get into a lot of different examples, but it's just that overthinking. It's the insecurity. It's, it's letting your emotions take over, right? One fictional example I'll give you is Jimmy Chipwood from Hoosiers when Gene Hackman diagrams the last play of the game in the movie Hoosiers, and he designs a play to use his best player Jimmy Chipwood as the decoy, and the team looks at him and is basically like, are you kidding me? How could it not go to Jimmy, right? And it's one of those simple things where he's just trying to overthink it, and the players allowed him or made him get out of his own way, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they say to him "What are you doing?" basically, and then he's like, "Okay." And Jimmy Chipwood says, "Coach, I'll make it." And it's like, okay, and then they diagram the play for their best player. And I think that's a very kind of, I would say, tame example of kind of getting out of your way. I think it also shows itself in when coaches get in trouble and do things like that. I mean, an example I'll give you is, it's just amazing when you in hindsight, when you read them or you hear about them in my profession. Years ago, I don't even know how many years, and this isn't that in I don't know. I don't want to say it's common, but things like I'm going to talk to you about are probably not as uncommon, but they come to light. There was a coach, I think it was a Division I coach, and I don't even remember the sport, to be honest with you. And something happened during the game. They were mad, whatever. Team was flying home, and the coach made the team do push-ups in the airport and basically humiliated them
right
in the airport. Get out of your own way. What are you doing? What are you doing? And so they wound up getting fired eventually, because they couldn't get out of their own way.
Right.
And I mean, you and I have had experience with coaches that we know can't get out of their way, and some are still in the profession, but maybe in a different job, and some are out of the profession, right? And don't do it anymore. So I think when we talk about this with relative to helping coaches is, there's a lot of aspects of this, but just think about those things that, like, are you making too much of something? Are you, overthinking something? Are you, what's the real guts of what you're trying to do? And is that the best way to do it?
Right.
So anyway,
I think that's great. We've had a show on details matter.
Yep.
Right. But part of that, to your point, is details matter. And that includes knowing which details don't matter.
Yep.
Right. That's part of details matter, is knowing, like, okay, this is not the time to focus on a hair clip. I don't even know what the right word is, but it's coaching a youth girls team, and the girls, ponytail isn't the right way. And I don't, does it matter?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you really want to stop a girl from playing because her ponytail's not the right way?
Yeah. I just had this conversation with my cousin about officials, and certain officials need to get out of their own way. Like, they're spending so much time worrying about the jersey being tucked in, or that the jewelry, or that their compression stuff doesn't match. Like, ref the game. I mean, I get it.
Right.
To it, like, that is in the rule book, but get out of your own way. Like, you're thinking about something that isn't important. I mean, it was just a funny officiating conversation that he and I had yesterday. And I'll give you, like, some of the things that happen. And listen, I think coaches get in their own way. The best coaches can get in their own way. Some of them are so good at their jobs and are such good coaches that I don't want to say, for lack of better terms, I would say they get away with it. And I would also probably, if I'm arguing against me, being like, maybe that is important, and because they worry about things like certain things, they allow them, that helps them. So I'll give you a couple of examples.
Again, I come back to, you're not saying, at least I'm not hearing you say, ignore details. What
Correct.
you're saying is that evaluate the details, figure out which details are more important, follow through on those, by creating more time by ignoring the stupid little details.
And and some of it's not even details. It's like, the phrase that always comes into my head with this is move on. Move on.
Gotcha.
Right. So I'll give you a couple examples of, like, we have visiting teams come in to our building, and they do a shoot around either the morning of games or the day before, but
Right.
and it's basketball, it's soccer, it's lacrosse, it's all these, so it's not isolated to a certain sport or facility, right? The number of coaches, some of them are ours. I mean, when they go away, that worry that their practice is being filmed by the home team, or that, like, people are sneaking indoors to watch this. Now, that could have been as a result of the Patriots at some point. But, like, we're in the same conference with most of these teams that are coming in. And if anyone has proof that, or whatever, that our staff is doing that, like, let me know. Right. I mean,
but don't you share? Sorry, I'm probably going down on a
rabbit hole.
I'm probably going to get in my own way right now. But don't you share film anyway?
You share film, but not practice.
Okay.
So this is so it's like, they're worried they're going to give away that they're going to, guard so and so with this player, or they're going to run this defense or whatever. I mean, and I always come into my head, like, you didn't invent the game. I hate to tell you that you didn't invent the game. Sometimes, with lacrosse, we host. I'm often involved in the lacrosse Final Four, right? And we go to these practices.
Being on the selection committee.
Being on the selection committee. Yeah, and then we host it. We're hosting it in Philly this year coming up. Drexel and the Eagles.
That's great.
Awesome. But the coaches worry that, like, somebody's watching something, and I keep thinking, what are you implementing the day before the semifinals of the, like, what do you think they're going to steal that they haven't found on the first 16 games of the year? And it's just like coaches get like, just, what is important is getting your team ready. Like, stop worrying about it. It is very, it's that paranoia. It's the, and again, I've seen it. These are teams in the Final Four, right? So like, who am I to sit here and say that they shouldn't be worrying about it, right? But I am. I'm sitting here with you telling them, don't worry about it. But it's just like, it's this energy, drain of what, like, focus on your team, your kids, your coaching staff, the experience, like getting them truly ready, rather than, different things. So I think that happens a lot. Another example I'll give you, that I think is important. When we try to talk about it, I try to talk about it with the coaches but again, I haven't done research on it, but switching, itineraries or like how you do things, or, right in the middle of things. So the example is, every team gets an itinerary, right? In college, right? The kids, the staff, they work on an itinerary. It's like, hey, the bus is this, that we're wearing this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And some take the itinerary, some coaches, really seriously, and it here it is. Others like kind of do it as almost like a guide, right? And then it's like, it's tweaking, it's this, it's like, well, yeah, maybe we should leave, an hour and a half earlier. And again, there are instances where you have to, like, you're in Boston and traffic was, it's like, we have to adjust. Like, that stuff makes sense. But it's like, well, maybe, I don't know, what don't we do? Let's do this. Well, maybe and so they're constantly this indecision. And then what they don't realize is that causes, kind of less stability for their student athletes in college. Right. People perform when they know, they just know the expectations. Like, this is what we're doing. They can take all that off the table. But if they're trying to guess when things are happening or how they're happening, or hold on, now we have to wear this. I didn't pack that. If you're changing things and you're, then you're causing chaos instead of eliminating and creating stability. Yeah. So any way you can create stability, I think, as a leader and get rid of chaos, like you're putting your team in a better position to succeed.
Yeah, I had to bring up me, a personal example, but for me with marathon swims, and these swims are so long that once it sounds crazy, but once you're in the water, it's too late. There's no changes. There's no whatever, right? But that forces me for like days ahead of time to eliminate everything out of my brain. Yep. Right. So that by the time I get to actually getting in the water, there's no doubt about anything. Like my goggles are set. It sounds crazy, but I have multiple goggles. I have multiple, lights to put on my caps and, all that kind of stuff. Yep. Right. It all has to be set so I don't have to worry about it. Because if I'm thinking about anything else other than the swim, I know I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah. It's 100%.
Anyway, sorry to bring it back.
No, but you don't have to apologize.
So in that
for
way,
that.
I'm the athlete. I get it. When you were telling that story just then, I was just like, oh yeah, if I have to worry about changing my itinerary a day before, that's a distraction.
Yes.
Actually, the word I get from all this is distraction. Yeah. It's the coach's job to get out of their own way. Stop creating distractions.
Yes.
Don't create distractions. Let your athlete just focus on the event.
Correct. And I would say, you could speak to this, but that's applicable to the business world too. Is like if you're the boss and you're constantly causing distractions because you're throwing different projects and you're doing but you want them to, focus on, the sales number or whatever you've given them, but then you're like, oh yeah, but hey, can you get back to this guy? Can you do this? Can you do that? And meanwhile, so then your employees, all they're doing is reacting to emails and and they're not doing their job. it's the, in what we're talking about with teams is if kids or students are always worrying about what are we doing next? When are we practicing? Hold on. When are we off?
Right.
Well, stick to a schedule. Sometimes, yes. Do I think, there's times when you have to make adjustments.
Yeah. Or whatever. Yeah.
But I feel like when I say get out of their own way, it's so much of the overthinking. I've had coaches come through and want to move games, literally scheduled games, because we had to adjust another game because of weather, right? Like it was like, well, we can't play it, Thursday and so we're going to move that game to Friday, right? But we already have a game on Saturday, so that's a back-to-back in certain sports. Right. That's a lot. But so's the other team. But the other team is going to play at noon, and we're playing at 6. Which means they're going to get 6 more hours of rest, right? So you want us to move our game, which is already scheduled, move all these people, all the things that go into a college, sporting event, because you're worried about 6 hours of rest.
Right.
And it's not even totally because, we were going to be the home team. So that team had to travel to us. Oh. So it's, and it's like, what? And I would say, not necessarily in this case, but in a lot of cases, what are those around you filling your tank with? Like, what are they filling your brain with? Right. And are they causing, are your assistants causing chaos and to question things? And it's like, I've thought about if I ever was an assistant coach, what would I, one of my goals would be to help the head coach make decisions, almost like play off of their questioning of certain ideas. And then kind of, it's what I do now in my role as an administrator is say to them like, whoa, let's pull it back. You're bringing in way too many variables into this, and there's not that many.
We'll be right back to the Nick Anthony Show.
What if sports became the place where every kid felt safe, supported, and empowered? Coach Across America makes that possible by training coaches to do more than teach the game. They become mentors who inspire confidence, create inclusive environments, and show up for their athletes every day, so kids learn how to show up for themselves. Visit coachacrossamerica.org to see how they're making a difference in communities across the country.
Welcome back to the Nick Anthony Show.
So in our prep, I didn't get this, but just now when you said it, right, this brings me back to PKE.
Yeah.
Right? Because PK is the physical, the knowledge, and the emotion, and they're managing, by worrying about 6 hours, they're worried about fatigue on the physical. But what I'm hearing you say is they're not really thinking about managing the E.
Yes.
Then the fatigue from the E, and changing the schedule. All right, could maybe it'll help them a little bit on the physical, but what does it do to the E? Mm-hmm. What does it do for them that makes them emotionally more exhausted?
Yeah. So and I would exactly, and I think coaches speaking or prepping the E or teaching the E or is underrated. That scenario could be flipped from a psychology standpoint into we're getting ready for the conference tournament. We play back-to-back. We play short on rest. Let them figure it out. Like, it doesn't matter to us. Like, right. and create we're bigger than this.
Yeah, we're tougher. We're tougher.
And like, so it's all like in the way, it's like embrace these maybe slightly, I don't know what the right word is, unfair. I don't even know what it is. Variables, bumps in the road, adversity.
Actually, make it smaller.
And flip it and like get excited about like, hey, no, we're going to do this. We're going to, that's ridiculous. Like that doesn't matter to us. That matters to people, losers worry about that.
Right.
Winners don't worry about that. Winners just worry about winning on the field, not the nonsense that people want to create behind the scenes. Right. So that to me, I mean, I think the indecision causes like this and just the worry about nonsense, like really nonsense, and dumb it down to what is the most important thing, which is getting your team ready. Like,
but already now what I'm getting right.
Yeah.
It's not just the P, but it's the E too.
I mean, I think it's more E.
Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think the margins aren't the same as they are in, world-class skiing or whatever, when the winner wins by 0.0001, right?
But even then,
I agree. Yeah. But my point is, like, we're talking about 98% of the time in a lot of the sports is the better team wins. Like, literally the better team wins.
Right.
Like, so how do you become the better team? And I do think the E actually makes you the better team. Often talent you're going to have. I mean, like, and when I say that, when I'm ignoring P or K, it's not that I'm ignoring P or K. It's that we're already in this place. We're in the middle of a season. We're here. Like, we are what we are.
Right.
So
I think we're both asked how to help people improve their E.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is help eliminate distractions, right, and help them. Empower them to focus.
Yes.
Find ways to empower your athletes to be allowed the time and energy needed to focus.
Yeah. I mean, so much of what you hear, and you and I've spoken to this and about this, and you've mentioned it, is what are you going to do now? And a lot of the stuff is worrying about things that either A, you can't control, B, aren't important, right? Or C, have happened in the past. Like, move on, go to the next thing. And it's like, what's the resiliency? I mean, if I go back to golf, it's like, I just hit a terrible shot. Am I going to just worry about the terrible shot and worry like, and that wasn't fair. I had a bad lie, and I can't believe they allow you to have bad lies in golf and blah, blah. Or am I going to go hit the next shot?
Right.
And so, like, I think coaches need to help their teams move on, because guess what? They're having those conversations. Like, they're being like, can you believe they're going to have 6 hours more of rest, or they're going to, or they always get all the calls and games and everything. That if you foster that, if you're thinking about it's coming through to their team, right? And then if that stuff's coming through to your team, then they're worried about things that aren't important.
Do you think it's insecurity on the coach's part to not be able to let things go?
Yes. And again, like I said, the best coaches have trouble sometimes letting things go, so I don't want to act like there haven't been people who've been successful who I would say worry about things that aren't that important. I mean, I think classic examples are coaches, who can't let officials' calls go, and then just, it's like 3 days later and they're in my office still talking about and how they sent film into the conference office or the assigner and officials, and you're kind of like, whoa, like, aren't we playing tomorrow?
Right.
And that stuff is like, but I do get it, because, you wind up, because maybe you don't know how to beat the team that's coming up and you're really worried about it. So you worry about these other things that really you can keep worrying about, because you're not going to win or lose them. They happened,
right.
And it's like again, I don't know all the psychology of it, but it's like the person who has this huge project in front of them, right? But what do they do to, like, almost put off that project? Is they answer their emails, and they, and I can't remember how you framed it at one point during one of our shows, but you're worrying about these things and you're doing these like day-to-day reactive things instead of actually moving on, moving
right.
forward.
You're working on the urgent, unimportant.
Yes, that's what.
things.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, and I think this, in this sense of like what I'm talking about in terms of get out of your own way, is often they're worrying about non-urgent, unimportant
right.
things. They're staying in that box.
Right.
So anyway, that was that's part of my rant on, because I also think it affects you. I mean, even if it's let's isolate it to a game, just a specific game. If you can't move on, if you can't get out of your own way, then you're going to be focusing on something that will hurt you be able to make a decision later in the game. Right. I've seen it. I've seen coaches who can't let and you've seen it on TV. I mean, or in your own experiences where they can't let go of a mistake that an official made or right. whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I should have called timeout, right. and I missed it because you weren't ready. Like, right. were you in the headspace? And as we go through things, it's all we've talked about before. Are those around you able to catch you and help you with your E and pull right. you back and get you into a better place and make sure you focus on the things that you should be focusing on? So
right, and that's one thing you've talked about a lot is being present.
Yeah,
and what you're saying, what I think I'm hearing you say is, if you don't get out of your own way and move on from things that are details, right, then you can't be focused on the next thing. You can't be present.
Yeah, and if we go back to your swimming and even English Channel, it's not that you don't reflect, right, on things like, in your first failed attempt, at swimming, the English Channel, you moved on, but you still were reflecting. We're not saying you're not reflecting on things, right? And that's not what we're really talking about, is like, you were reflecting on that stuff to learn from this. An official making a bad call, you're not learning anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when things that you realize later that, okay, maybe I could control that, or I could do a better job of controlling that or preparing whatever.
Right.
Okay, that's different, right? I mean, that's like saying I'm looking at our film from the previous game and seeing like, man, I didn't like my call that I made. That's self-reflection. That's not.
Well, I would say even that, you don't have to necessarily reflect during the game.
Oh no, right? Yeah, I'm talking about like the later. Right. Yes, correct.
But so sorry I keep bringing up swimming today, but this makes me think of swimming too. So in swim meets, I know you know this, but the rest of our audience may not, right? A swimmer in a weekend-long meet could have, 10 events that they have to swim. And you see it all the time with swimmers, right? Like, their goggles come off because they had a bad start or something, and then they have a bad swim. And then once they had a bad swim, it just goes downhill from there. Mm-hmm. Because that bad swim then becomes a bad day, and that bad day becomes a bad meet.
Yep.
Right? And really, the best swimmers, just as soon as that swim's over, and this is my observation, and, some of the best coaches in the world in swimming might disagree with me, but I think the best swimmers in the world forget about their swim. Whether they have a good swim or a bad swim, that swim's over as soon as it's over. Mm-hmm. You go to the warm-up pool, you warm down, and you're already focused on what you're doing next.
Yes.
And whatever you did, good or bad, is irrelevant for that next swim.
Yep.
And that's what you have to do. And that's really what I hear you say, too, when you say, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, right? Figure it out after the games are over, after the season, or after whatever is over. Worry about it then. But in that moment, start getting ready for the next thing.
100%.
Whether the game is in the next 6 hours, or I know that's not.
It's advice for. I mean, I'm not saying I'm always great at it. I think I'm a classic overthinker, right. Or whatever. But like, it's the advice you give your kids, right? I mean, you got to move on. Like, you got to, right. I think I've said it before. Where, somebody has said to me, like, okay, but now what are you going to do? Right. And you've said it.
I say that a lot. Right.
And so that's, we're basically talking resilience, right? But, in a lot of this, getting out of your own way is, it's the resilient part, because you're not, you're not worrying about things from the past that you can't control, that have no effect whatsoever on the other things.
But you're also, as you go forward, as you said, right? You're getting rid of distractions. You're not creating distractions.
Yes.
You're creating an environment where your athletes can focus.
Yes.
And be at their best.
100%. Yeah. So anyway, as you can tell, I have my passion about some of these, because I don't like seeing people get in their own way. It's classic. Maybe because I know I've gotten in my own way over time personally. Yeah.
Right. We all have.
But when you see it and you're like, oh God, how do I help this person just get out of their own way without dismissing their thought, their thoughts. And, I think at some point, you
questions. So the question is, does this really matter for the next game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. For the next whatever.
Yeah. So. No doubt. So anyway,
this is great, Nick.
Yeah.
This is great.
It was good.
Thank you.
It was a good day back.
Yeah, it is. Before we sign off, though, I have a request from our audience, and that is, if you're at this point with us where you've listened to the whole show, I hope that means you got something out of it. And we could really use your help. We are, 30 plus shows into our podcast now. And quite frankly, if you're listening, if you're here, then there's got to be somebody else in your life that you believe could benefit from watching these shows. If you would take just a few minutes to share our show with somebody in your life, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Anth.
All right, Nick.
See ya.
All right. Thanks for watching the show today. I had a great time talking with Nick, as I always do. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Visit us on social media. Also, go to our website if you've got comments, questions, you want to call me an ugly name, thenickanthonyshow.com. There's a place to do it there. Give us your email address so you never miss an episode. Thank you very much. We'll see you next show.